Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win. Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. Des, good afternoon. How the devil are you, sir?
Ashley, I am absolutely marvelous. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Oh no, I'm happy to have you here, Des O'Neill. I keep seeing you doing all this amazing stuff. I had the wonderful Zoe on a few months ago now, but yeah, to have you here is brilliant. So thank you very much for sparing some time and coming in to help our accountants and bookkeepers. So thank you.
Well, that's what it's all about, Ashley, because we definitely have that in common. I've watched your stuff, and you seem to have that same burning passion of let's just make a difference. Let's just help to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. So come on, that first question. Tell me a little bit about yourself, please.
So I am a father of 3 children. We have a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old. I am also a pet parent to 2 dogs and 4 cats. And believe it or not, I'm actually an accountant. So I'm a dual qualified accountant. I'm an ACCA accountant. I'm a CPA accountant. And for excitement, I went on to become a chartered secretary. So I've immersed myself in accounting, but when I was working in practice, I always felt that I was missing out on something. So about 20 years ago, I founded the ProfitPro group to try and find out what that something was that was missing and help other accountants in the process.
Fantastic. You did that 20 years ago. I did that 18 months ago. I think so before the Omni Group, you were an accountant. Were you self-employed? You were a self-employed accountant, or were you working for a practice?
No. I qualified as an accountant. I did a training through PwC. I worked for a mid-sized firm. I went to a smaller firm, and I just couldn't find anywhere to land. And the idea was that I was going to set up this multidisciplinary accountancy firm. And what I did was I went to work for one of the Irish institutes as a regulator and a reviewer for a 12-month period to get the experience. And when I took the job, I told them, I said, this is a 12-month project. I will be leaving in 12 months' time. They took me on that basis. They were happy to take me on. I came out and I went to go set up an accountancy practice. And I just went, no, I've worked with the institutes. I've seen what's happening for accountants in practice. There's a gap here. There's a gap. There's a gap between what the accountants in practice want and need. And the institutes were really the only people providing this as the membership bodies. And I said, no, I'm not going to set up my own accountancy practice. I'm going to straight in and be a consultant to the accounting profession. Now, back then, I didn't have as much gray hair. I had more hair on the top of my head. And everybody said to me, they said, Des, at 26 years of age, you cannot become a consultant to the accountancy profession. You just can't do it. You need to have gray hair. You need to have a lot more experience. You can't do this. This will not work. Well, 20 years later, here I am.
I've literally just come off a podcast. I was a guest on a totally different podcast and telling my story. And when someone tells you can't do something, you've got 2 options, haven't you, Des?
Well, no. I only have one option. When somebody tells me I can't do something, I must do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the pivotal moment in my story. I was told I couldn't do something, and you sort of like, oh, maybe they're right, but no, I'm going to prove you wrong. I am going to prove you wrong. And so, yeah, here you are, 20 years. That is interesting, because I used to be a financial advisor very many moons ago, and I was like 26, 27. The trouble is with me, I looked about 12, and if you know more than a lot of other people, then you are an expert. And if you can carry that off, then that's what you can do. So it doesn't matter about age; it's what you know and what you don't know. And I think that must have been an epiphany for you, mustn't it, Des, when you thought about that after you'd worked for the Institute for a year?
Yeah. So I had this view that sometimes the institutes and the experts were so far ahead of where people are in reality that, you've got to meet people where they are on the road. Okay. You've got to meet people where they are on the road. And I met a mentor. Actually, I'm looking to see, do I have his book here behind me? I usually keep it close at hand. I've obviously given it away. But I met a mentor a number of years ago, a guy called Michael Port. And he wrote a book called Book Yourself Solid. Okay. So it was about marketing. And actually, it really works well for professional service firms. But what Michael Port had in his book was the distinction between a category authority and the category authority. Now, when I started out first, one of the first things I started doing was doing audit workshops. Okay. So I've been doing audit workshops now since 2003. 19 years later, I'm still virtually the same audit workshop. But why the audit workshop worked was because I wasn't the category authority. I was just a page ahead in the book and people could relate to me better. So the difference between the category authority, the category authority is the person who wrote the book. A category authority is a person who's read the book and is 1 or 2 pages ahead of their audience. So for accountants and bookkeepers, we don't need to be the category authority, but we can still be a category authority and have an even bigger impact, because the closer you actually are to your audience, the more that you can help them progress, because you understand them. Sometimes high-level authorities and high-level experts, sometimes they can become a bit removed from the reality and lose the value.
That makes a lot of sense. And I guess because you'd worked in practice and you'd worked for the Institute, you had bucket loads of experience anyway. So why couldn't you be an expert?
Yeah, look, it was a big risk. And looking back on it, I was 26. Sure, you do crazy stuff. Would I jump off the plane again? I'm not sure. And so it was a ludicrous jump on some levels, but on other levels, it was very, very practical. I had worked in practice. My sister was a practice owner. My brother-in-law was a practice owner. I'd seen what Big Four were like. Then I'd seen it from the Institute perspective. And it just came at me like an epiphany one day. Accountants need help. They need help getting to the next stage. They need help in realizing their true potential as business owners, as professionals, and as people.
Yeah, no, I was chatting to a guy a few weeks ago now, met him at a social event. And he's sort of like, what do you do? And I said, well, I train LinkedIn and I also coach accountants. I help accountants to do stuff. And he was absolutely floored by what I said. He said, like, well, surely they should know how to do this. And it's funny, isn't it? Because they're so busy helping other people, they forget to do it themselves. And you just shook your head then. So I guess you see this all the time.
But so there's a number of challenges that accountants face. The biggest challenge is that the number one client is never the number one client, because the number one client is their own business. And this is like, when you're on the airplane and they always do the thing, well, when the oxygen masks come down first, then look after your children. Accountants don't put on the oxygen mask. They're saving the world over here and they're killing the golden goose. Okay. So that's the first issue with accountants. But, accountants, let's take Usain Bolt. Okay. So Usain Bolt, a natural athlete. Okay, so one of the fastest human beings on the planet. But Usain Bolt had a coach.
Yeah.
To make him better.
Yeah.
And this is, so people say, oh, well, sure, Des is a coach, he's a trainer. Sure, of course he's going to say this. Everybody needs a coach. No matter how good we are at things, a coach or a consultant, this external reflection, and it's a natural law of nature. We're either growing or we're dying. We're either growing or we're dying. And if we're not growing, we need this external stimulus to help us grow. My true passion, Ashley, is not actually accounting, believe it or not. It's not auditing. It's not financial reporting. It's not tax. And even my true passion is not actually practice management and practice profitability. My true passion is about realizing potential. We all have a certain amount of potential, and are we realizing it? And my whole, I suppose I started my journey of growth on a personal level about 1999. So for the last 23 years, it's been about, well, okay, looking in the mirror going, okay, you're doing okay. What's the next level? What's the next level? How can I evolve as a person? How can I evolve as a parent? How can I evolve as an owner of a business? How can I evolve in my leadership role? And so that's really what drives me, is that the amount of untapped potential in the accountancy profession and the bookkeeping profession is just, it's off the scale. And you see the influence that accountants and bookkeepers have. People have often said to me, they said, Des, why it's accountancy and bookkeeping, it's a very niche, and sometimes it's a fixed mindset profession. Why don't you just go off and work with entrepreneurs? Here's why. Because accountants and bookkeepers can literally change the world. In terms, and not they can, they do.
Yeah.
Who solved all the problems? When COVID hit, who was the frontline defense for the businesses? It's the accountants and bookkeepers. The evolution of the profession, the individuals and collectively, can have a knock-on effect on the economy, on businesses, on society.
Wow. I can feel this passion coming through, Des. This is incredible. So you've been working with accountants and bookkeepers for over 20 years and been in the profession for even longer. And you've just, because my next question is what challenges you see. So the biggest challenge for an accountant then is just understanding that they can do things. So how can you help them with that then?
Well, I just want to backtrack on that question, Ashley, right? So what are the challenges that they see at the moment, right? There's 2 or 3 challenges that I think really stand out. And there's a couple of obvious challenges, and then there's one who's not so obvious, okay? So the obvious challenges are the treadmill of business is moving fairly fast here. And people are finding it hard to keep up, and it's busier now than ever before. So there's not one solution to that. People think, oh, well, how do I solve? It's a multifaceted solution. It's about your strategy. It's about your business model. It's about your people. It's about your customers. It's about your marketing. It's about your automation. It's about your leverage. So there's the treadmill piece. There's the profitability piece. I just came off with one of our mastermind groups this morning, and it was interesting when they raised what their biggest issues were. Their biggest issues, they're talking about profitability being their biggest issues. And again, they're talking about working too hard. What's the real issue? The real issue is their pricing. Like, we must raise prices, and we must do it now. And I know anybody who comes on your show probably says this, but you see, the real issue about profitability is, what are we missing in terms of our profitability? Because it's not the bottom line profitability of the business. It's not what you actually take out in terms of a living wage or investment for the future. You've got to factor into profitability the non-tangible costs of compromising your non-negotiables, like health, relationships, family, all this stuff. People don't put that on a P&L. So when they don't put it on a P&L, it's not always visible. Why are accountants and bookkeepers doing this in this time of busyness? The one thing about COVID was it gave everybody a chance to reflect on what's really happening here. But my concern is it's slipping away for some people. I had people who were making life-changing decisions last year in 2021, and now in 2022, they're, oh, well, Des is kind of like, yeah, I didn't do that. But so here's the third real issue. Here's what the real issue is. The real issue for accountants and bookkeepers is going to shock you, because for me, I think it's honesty. It's honesty about, who am I? Like, who am I really? And what do I want out of this profession and this business? And I think sometimes we're lacking that brutal honesty as to where we are on the journey and what's working and what's not working. Now, the market is confused at times. And this is obviously, I highly respect what you do. And as I've said to you beforehand, I want you to come work with us in terms of our LinkedIn work, because I really love your work. So we will be engaging you after this session. But the rise of the Instagrammable accountants, right? For the Instagrammable accountants, that's great. It's brilliant. But we're not all Instagrammable accountants. No. So we have to be honest about who we are. Now, I was talking to you beforehand, Ashley, and you said, well, on LinkedIn, it caters for everybody, no matter where they are. You can get leverage out of and still be true to yourself. But you see, I think the biggest challenge, okay, look, we're facing into a recession. Now, it was muted. Now it's economically happening. This is why we need to change our pricing structures. This is why we need to cleanse our customer lists. But the question I have is, are we really being honest with ourselves about where we are and where we want to get to? You've got to meet everybody where they are in the journey, but the first person we need to meet is ourselves, and just be honest. And I've had people who've recently, they've decided, Des, I'm selling my practice, I'm out. I've had other people who said, Des, do you know what? I'm going to go on an acquisition spree and I'm going to grow my practice. I've other people who they've cut down their business to build a business that suits them. I've got some people that are on a 33% a year growth trajectory because that's the business they want to build. But it has to be our business. It has to be our vision, and it has to be us being honest about where we are ourselves.
Wow. That you're right. That does shock me. Again, it's all down. I use authenticity an awful lot in my training because we're not authentic, or a lot of people aren't authentic, and that is brilliant. So how do you actually help our accountants and bookkeepers there with their honesty and their pricing and stuff?
Look, CPD store, you can see I'm quite a passionate person. So cpdstore.co.uk and cpdstore.ie, this is about providing accountants with CPD. But for as long as I've been an accountant, I used to get pissed off with going to CPD courses that it was somebody, blah, 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 blah. What's the relevance? What's the value? So, and I'm not saying we're the finished article, but in CPD store, from a technical perspective, if it's tax, if it's accounting, if it's financial reporting, our aim is to get the relevant learning and knowledge to accountants in a way they can access it. So we do live webinars, we do conferences, we do on demand, we've got a searchable database so that CPD is almost like a knowledge hub of questions and answers. So there's the technical training that we do in CPD store. Now, as part of CPD store, I deliver practice management CPD. So through the ProfitPro brand, we have an expert channel in there. And right now we're very close to a big announcement of we're adding in substantial contributors to our people and our operations, the practice management component of CPD store. Up until now, it's mostly been technical. Now we're adding in all this stuff, and it's not just about me. But within CPD store, we do have a ProfitPro membership, and we have a ProfitPro mastermind for people who are serious about getting results in their accountancy and bookkeeping businesses. So the whole thing is, you see, for me, it's about education and knowledge on all levels can help us realize our potential, provide a better service to our clients and customers, and evolve ourselves in our business.
Yeah, I think most accountants and bookkeepers are continually learning, and on all the exams you have to take. I don't know how many exams you took to get all those qualifications, but you must have just spent your whole life reading papers. But that's all technical, and we're not looking at the other things that we need to develop in ourselves. You know, our confidence, our pricing, and all these other things. And you deliver all of that. Is that right?
Yeah, look, we look at all components. We're building out CPD store to be the entire gambit of what an accountant needs to be, grounded in technical. Because you see, we all like the technical, we need the technical. I'm not in any way diminishing the requirement for technical, but also then looking at practice management, practice profitability, technology, operational leadership, HRM.
Brilliant. Zoe's just put a comment up. So you've got this new club membership. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, look, we're adopting a slightly disruptive strategy into the UK, and we're running a limited time membership option where people can join for 12 months. They get access to our CPD club. And this gives them unlimited access to everything we do. So that's 100 webinars a year live. They can attend them live or on demand. And we've got, I think, 12 conferences scheduled in the UK for the next 12 months. So that's full-day conferences to 2-day conferences. We have a knowledge library, which is shorter material. And then we're adding in, this is what I'm talking about, we're on the verge of a big announcement in terms of on-demand catalogs of learning from various providers from all over the world. So it's an all-you-can-eat built into a searchable platform. So that you can go in and you can search. It's not just you sit and do CPD. You can go in and search and find the nuggets and the little segments of CPD that you want and that you need.
That's absolutely fantastic. And it, like you say, it's all in one place. 12 conferences a year. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, well, that's what we're running in the UK. In Ireland next year, we'll be running 140 live webinars in conjunction with 22 conferences.
Fantastic. I'm gonna have to get my name down for one of those.
we're building up our UK business. Obviously, there's more demand in the UK. There's more people in the UK. So we're building up our UK business to cater for that. So I would see that in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll have even more content in there.
No, that is absolutely fantastic. So what's the top tip that you can give our accountants and bookkeepers right now, Des?
I think I've already given it. Raising your prices makes everything easier. And as we face into economically challenging and uncertain times, it has never been more important than to do it now. It solves a myriad of problems, okay? But I think the real tip for anybody looking at this live stream, just when you're finished looking at this, just shut the door. Just shut the door. Just get out a pen and paper and just be honest with yourself and write down. It's when we have internal dialogue, so there's science behind this, but when we have internal dialogue versus when we write stuff down, it's harder to lie to yourself when you write it down. So if people just wrote down, where am I really right now? And where do I want to go? And what do I want to achieve here? And just be really brutally honest with where you are in the journey, what you aspire to, and what the first next step is. You don't need to know every step, but you got to. If we're taking steps without being honest about where we are, we're never going to end up where we want to be.
No, love that. And I highly recommend this book here by Linda Shaw. It's called Your Brain is Boss. It talks about all the neuroscience that's going on in our heads, and that top tip of writing it all down, like you say, shut the door, write it down, give yourself 5, 10, 15 minutes. That is stunning. Des, you're awesome. I've really enjoyed this. We've gone past our 15 minutes. Are you all right for a few more?
Yeah. No, I'm good. Fantastic. If you're good.
No, that's cool. Are you able to share with us the best story of how you've helped an accountant or a bookkeeper, please?
Look, Ashley, your audience will know that I'll have been given these questions in advance.
Oh no, you've given away the secret.
They'll know that somebody who runs events as slick and as smooth and as professional as yours, that it's not just a random question. I genuinely struggled with this question, right? And I don't have just one story. Like, I've got accountants who raise their prices and in doing so double their profits.
Yeah.
I've got accountants who raise their prices and double their turnover. I've got accountants who halved their working hours. Now, I've got a multitude of accountants who've gone from 55 to 35, but I've actually got people who were down to 25-hour, 20-hour weeks. I've got people who've doubled their annual leave. Where their dream when they met me was to take 4 weeks holidays, and now they're taking 8 a year. I've got people who've doubled their team. I've also got people who fired some non-performing team members. And we've got people who've transformed their client base and now only work with ideal clients who feel right for them and their team. Now, this is all kind of the standard stuff. But literally, I have people who've fallen in love with their business again, that they've actually fallen in love with being an accountant. I've had people who've come and said to me, they said, Des, you've saved my marriage. You've saved my marriage. I've had people who've come to me and said, Des, pre-COVID, one people, they came to me, they said, Des, we've taken a husband and wife team, we've taken our first holiday together for over 7 days in more than 15 years. I've got people, and sometimes it's not the big stuff like that. Sometimes it's the accountant who comes to me and says, Des, do you know what? I just gained the confidence to keep moving forward and know that I'm doing okay. I've got one of the greatest testimonials I ever got was from Brian, and Brian said, I'm more present. When I'm in work, I'm in work. And when I'm at home, I'm at home.
Yeah.
And when I'm with my wife,
lovely.
I'm with my wife. So I can't give you any one story. It's a whole smorgasbord of small wins and big wins, but it's all relative. It's all about the human desire to move forward and make progress.
Fantastic. Stunning. Look, I'm going to have you back again, Des. I could talk to you for all day, but we've already gone over the 50 minutes. So do people get hold of you, or do people speak to Zoe? What's the best thing to do?
If I think Zoe has the links up there in the chat. If somebody wants to join cpdstore.co.uk, they can. There's a special promotion going on at the moment, and that €200 promotion. My contact details, you will find me on LinkedIn. Thanks to my new connection with you, Ashley, Des O'Neill on LinkedIn, or you can email me at doneil@omnipro.ie. So contact me anywhere, contact me anytime. By all means, contact Zoe. But we love accountants and bookkeepers. That's what we do. So we'd love to hear from anyone anytime.
Absolutely. I've got one more question for you, but before I do that, I'm just going to share my guest next week. I've got the lovely Indy Tatler coming on. She's going to tell us all about her podcast, Digitools in a Cruel World, and also RX Market. So looking forward to having a chat with Indy next week. So my final question to you, Des, when you were at primary school, right, and you're a little boy in shorts, what did you want it to be when you grew up?
I was going to be the Pope.
Really? No one's ever said that. That is awesome.
Yeah, I was going to be the Pope. I don't know where it came from, or I don't know how it happened. Most of my friends wanted to be astronauts, and they wanted to be pilots, and they wanted to be, I grew up on a farm. They wanted to be all that kind of stuff. But I remember I was asked about 7 or 8 years of age, what are you going to be? And I was going to be the Pope. I don't know when it wore off, and again, I thought about this, because then I veered towards being a doctor then, for most of my secondary school years. And God only knows how I ended up being an accountant.
That's funny. That's hilarious. Oh, what a great story. Des, you've been an absolutely amazing guest. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your wisdom. Thank you to, we've got a comment coming in here. We got an email address there. So
it's actually multiple typos on that one. It's DONEIL.
Yeah, we've got it now. We've got it now. So yeah, thanks ever so much, Zoe. Thanks, Des, and thanks everybody for watching. And we will be back again next week, like I say, with Indy. Cheerio now. Bye bye.